Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cool Sports Guy. I'm Tom. Joining me today is Jarrett. How you doing today, Jarrett?
Doing good. Had the week off, so got to relax a little bit.
That's good. I'm happy for you, but now you're back. Time to get to work. Well, everybody, welcome. We are going to talk about some NFL today. We are 10 weeks down and going on 11. We have a lot to talk about today, so we are going to go ahead and get right into it. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and start with the AFC for the week. And our first team that we're going to talk about is the team that is leading the current AFC. And everyone at this point probably thought it was going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's not. It is the Tennessee Titans with only 2 losses to show. And Jarrett, I will let you take this one. What do you think? I feel like a lot of teams or a lot of people in the NFL are overlooking the Titans. What are your thoughts on that?
I will say I will agree that I think a lot of teams or a lot of people are overlooking the Tennessee Titans, and I'll even admit that I was one of those people. I thought that I'm saying they were a great team, and then they lost Derrick Henry, which isn't ideal given he's one of the best players in the league and not even debatably the best running back. They lost him, and I personally thought they were going to take quite a big drop off. I'm one of the biggest AP fans there are, but he's a little old at this point, and I thought he could kind of like keep it afloat, but they would definitely take a step back, and then they go out there and dominate the Rams, who were my NFC Super Bowl pick, and they look really good. It's not even like completely ignoring the offense. Their defense was solid. I think the big reason why they beat the Rams is in like the first quarter they made Stafford throw 2 picks. Their defense is great. Tannehill, probably the most underrated quarterback in the league. It's either him or Derek Carr. And even without Derrick Henry, surprisingly, Adrian Peterson's played pretty well. And I think that as a whole, that team is one of the best in the league. There are only 2 losses. One, I think we can all agree was a fluke. Like, I don't know how it happened. And then the other one was the Arizona Cardinals in week 1, whenever the Cardinals, started off on that super hot streak. So I don't really count that super against them. I think that they're a great team, and they are definitely overlooked by most people.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you. I do believe that they are overlooked. And for the simple fact that, like you said, the Cardinals lost, I believe it was a 31-17, and it was week 1. Titans hadn't gotten their rhythm yet, and Cardinals clearly were. And then the other fluke game, but which we have a few of those in the NFL every season. That being said, they already beat the Colts twice. They beat the Rams. They beat the Saints. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. So they're not, playing fluke teams, and they're not even close wins most of the time. And even though Adrian Peterson is playing instead of Derrick Henry, and AP isn't as dominantly playing as Derrick Henry was, I do think Titans in general, they're very physical. They play well. They're coached well, and the defense is great. And Tannehill is still playing pretty well. And moving forward, there is a good chance if they continue to play the way they do right now, they're going to get the bye week and they're going to get the home field advantage. And there is a good chance that Derrick Henry will be back for playoffs, and which is going to make them even stronger than they are right now. They still have to play the Texans twice, which I think is 2 wins right there. They look like they play the Dolphins, the 49ers, Steelers, Jaguars, Patriots. I think there's 2, maybe 2 tough games coming up for them. So I think they're going to continue their win streak for the most part. I think they're going to be in the best position to have the bye week, and I do think they're going to be one of the number 1 contenders.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Based on that schedule, the only losses I could possibly see is probably maybe the Patriots and maybe the 49ers. I think the Steelers are very bad, but that's another topic.
Yeah. We'll get. I'll let you rant about the Steelers in a second here. I think the Steelers are pretty bad too. I think I agree with you. And listen, you just tied to the Dolphins. You're done.
Lions,
there's no comparison anymore. Oh yeah, Lions. I'm sorry. There you go. Same thing, right? Except Dolphins are actually starting to win games now.
Yeah, now that I'm betting against them, they're going to win streak.
Right? Hey, that's how I felt about 49ers this last week, but that's we'll get to that in a second too. But we're going to stick to the AFC for now. We're actually going to move on to another team that's kind of on a drop-off, which are the Chargers. They're down to 5-4 now. Do you think they're going to continue that, or can they bounce back? What do you think?
The Chargers are a very strange team to think about. At the beginning of the season, they looked like one of the better teams in the league, and then they've just been on this horrible downswing. And I don't really have a reason for why it's happened. I mean, they've played good teams. They lost to New England, which New England I know does on paper isn't the best team in the world, but they're a very talented team. Belichick can outcoach anyone. I think they will turn it around personally. I think that they have a lot of talent on that team, and they have too much talent, and I think their coach is great, and I think it's too much talent and too good of coaching for them to keep on this downward spiral. I don't know. I think they'll be a playoff team still. I think they're going to be maybe second in the division behind Kansas City, which is weird talking about because 3 weeks ago Kansas City was in last place. But I think they'll probably get maybe the 6th or 7th seed in the AFC. And I think they'll be one of those teams in the playoffs, in the wild card, that give the team that's supposed to be a much better team a run for their money. So I definitely do think they will turn it around. I think it's kind of just a bad streak going on, and it's going to end at some point.
So I think it's going to look like they're going to turn it around, but I don't think they are. And the reason I think they're going to look like they're going to turn it around because, again, I wrote down who they're going to play. They got Steelers coming up. They got the Broncos twice. They play the Giants, Bengals, Chiefs, Texans, and then Raiders, who they already blew out once this season. And considering how the Raiders are going sideways right now, there's a good chance that's going to happen again. I think Texans at this point don't even try to win a game. Let it go. Chiefs might be a tough game. Bengals might be a tough game. I don't think Giants is going to be that tough. I don't think Broncos are that good. I think they have random moments where they are somewhat good, and then they just kind of drop off. And then they play the Steelers, who you and I both just agreed that, well, they suck, right? So I want to apologize for my pug. Sorry. But they suck, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And they're going to beat some of these teams, and they're going to start doing a better job with some of these teams, and then eventually they're going to get to the playoffs, and they're going to face teams that they've played, which are they're going to end up playing probably the Patriots again. They're going to play the Titans. They're going to play who else they got? Kansas City maybe. And when those happen, I do think first one and done is probably what's going to happen with them in the playoffs.
I do think that maybe this year, if they do make the playoffs, which I'm assuming they will, I don't think they go very far. I think in a few years from now, we're going to talk about them as one of the powerhouses in the league. Just maybe purely based on I am a big believer in Justin Herbert, but I do think that I know I was kind of downplaying the losing streak, but at the same time, it's kind of showing that they're a good team, but they're not quite at the NFL powerhouse level. So I think they're going to turn it around to the point where they make the playoffs, but maybe not more than that.
Yeah, and another team that looks like we're going to bounce back to somebody who is turning it around. I think the Patriots are actually starting to turn it around. I want to jump to them real quick. And they won the last 4, it seems like. And I'll go ahead and take this one. I've been saying from the beginning that I think they are going to make the playoffs, but I'm seeing them beyond playoffs at this point. And I'm also thinking that, from where they started the season, the first 4 or 5 games versus where they are right now, there's a big difference. And my question to you today is, are the Patriots still contenders? Are they contenders enough to at least make it to the AFC Championship game? And where I'm sitting right now, I do think they are. We mentioned the Titans that they're going to play the Patriots. I do think that's going to be a tough game. I'm not sure which way that's going to go. The Patriots do play the Bills twice. And last year with Cam Newton, 2 times when they played the Bills, both times, if I remember correctly, Patriots were driving down the field and there was fumble. Both games, I think. And that's how they lost that game. And they were within win range. So I think that I'm not trying to argue that Mac Jones is better than Cam Newton, but I do think the Patriots offense this year is better. And I do think the Patriots defense this year is better. I think Patriots in general are better this year. And the Bills, I don't necessarily think they're much better than they were last year. If anything, I think they're exactly the same. So I do think if the Patriots do play the Bills, which they're going to be playing them twice, I think they'll have at least win-win. I think they can beat the Colts, Jaguars, they can beat Dolphins, they will beat, I think. And even though they lost to them week 1. And, like I said, Titans, they're going to play once. So right now, the way the Patriots are going, not only do I think they're contenders to make the playoffs and get to the AFC Championship game, I also think there's a good chance that when all is said and done, Week 18, we're looking at Patriots as number 1 in their division winners, and the Bills might be looking at a wild card spot. What do you think?
I definitely am more a believer in the Bills and the Patriots. But one thing I will credit you on is from the beginning you said the Patriots are a playoff caliber team, which I'm going to admit going into the season I thought they would be like I didn't think they would be bad. Like the Patriots will never be bad as long as Belichick is there. But I thought they were going to be like a 7, 8, or 9 win team, barely missing the playoffs. Which I was a fan of Mac Jones coming out of college.
Well, there's still time to be an 8-win team. So.
I know. I'm just saying what I'm leading to is I definitely think that they are a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Mac Jones, I thought was the most pro-ready quarterback coming out of the draft, and I think he's kind of proven that. I know he doesn't have to really air the ball out all the time or anything like that, but at the same time, he's running the offense well. He's a super smart quarterback. He's a very accurate quarterback. And I think I personally still would not put them in the AFC Championship. But if I was to bet money, I would not pick them. But at the same time, I would not be surprised. So with that, I think I would count them as Super Bowl contenders. For the fact that it wouldn't be surprising if they were there, I just personally would not bet money on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the reason I think I'll put them in AFC Championship game, I'm not necessarily picking them to win it to go to the Super Bowl or even win the Super Bowl, but if you think about the contenders as probably going to be in the playoffs from the AFC, it's more than likely going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, who last year, when the Kansas City Chiefs were playing really well, they made it all the way to the Super Bowl. The Patriots played Mahomes in Arrowhead with Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. Cam Newton was actually out with COVID. And up until fourth quarter, that game was within 3 points. Up until the fourth quarter, I believe Kansas City had scored 13 points. And I think right now, again, I do believe Patriots have improved a lot more this year. I do think they'll give KC a run for their money. I do think since the Titans are going to play the Patriots in regular season, I've never seen another coach make adjustments like Belichick does. So if Titans play, and especially if the Titans win against the Patriots, I give the Patriots a better chance of winning in the playoffs against them. Chargers, they've already beat. Ravens, I don't even know how they have this many wins so far. They're so up and down. I mean, and then, who else is left? I don't think there's any other teams in the AFC right now that can say, and then you got the Bills. So it really just maybe depend on who they play first round, in the divisional round or even wild card round. But as of right now, out of these teams, I think Patriots can more than likely keep up. And by Patriots, I mean Bill Belichick can more than likely keep up with all these teams and all these coaches. So that's why I do think they're contenders. And yeah, like you said, for someone
I watched football since I was 6, which was the year 2006. I know, make you feel old. It's the Patriots are one of those teams that make me wish I would have just bandwagoned when I started watching football, because it's really not fair. They have one down year with 8 wins, 7 or 8 wins, and they bounce back, and then they're a Super Bowl contender again with a rookie quarterback. The Bears, since I've watched them, they've had 2 good years, and that was it. It's just not fair,
The funniest thing about you talking about watching football starting 2006 and saying how great the Patriots were if you look at, I think you would have appreciated Bill Belichick more if you saw the Patriots from the year 2001 to 2006. Because those early years where they went to those couple Super Bowls and won, I think it was, you can argue that the defense was so much better than what Brady was basically Mac Jones in the early years, and the team was just so great. They were just coached so well. And then later on in the years was when you see Brady, put up more numbers, perform better, doing such better jobs. And I think it's funny that you say that Patriots are so great, 2006 and onwards. Brady's now moved and they're still good. If you would have seen them before, I feel like you would have just appreciated them a lot more.
Yeah, so the first game I ever watched was the Bears versus the Colts in the Super Bowl, which you can't really tell.
Yeah,
that poster right there is the Devin Hester opening kickoff touchdown. But the second Super Bowl I ever watched was Patriots Giants win the almost undefeated season for the Patriots. So basically, my opening season of football was the Patriots were undefeated until the Super Bowl.
That's fair. That is fair, and that was a tragic Super Bowl. I don't want to talk about it, but so we're gonna move on to our next and I think final AFC talk, second last AFC talk of the week, and of course we can't do a show without talking about the legendary Patrick Mahomes, especially after last week's performance. 5 touchdowns, 400+ yards. Jarrett, is Mahomes back?
I know his stats don't really speak for it, but I kind of want to say Mahomes never left. Mahomes, I think I will say their defense has stepped it up the past few weeks, which has helped Mahomes a lot because whenever it's a game of field position, it helps a lot when your defense doesn't allow, a touchdown every single drive and you have to do a shootout and play hero the whole time. Mm-hmm. And now that their defense can actually, get stops at least a few times a game, Mahomes can kind of play his own game. And it's showing that's all they had to do was get a few stops and Mahomes would step up again. And I think if you want to say Mahomes was gone, I think Mahomes is back. And I think that the Chiefs, this is kind of their, I'm kind of hoping because they're just a fun team to watch, but I'm thinking this is their turning point in the season to where they go back to more of a top tier team in the league instead of a team that you only think of to beat bad teams.
Yeah. So I don't think I'm ready to say Mahomes is back yet. I'm on the fence about it. And yes, I do think Mahomes was gone, even though there was a couple of interceptions that he had was nowhere near his fault. There's, games where Travis Kelce in key moments were just turning the football over. That being said, Mahomes had a great game. But again, I believe, and we both kind of said this in the beginning, and I was kind of up and down on this because originally I said, hey, just like every year, Raiders are going to fall off. And then the Raiders are looking good. And then John Gruden was gone, and they're still looking good. And I was like, hey, maybe John Gruden was the problem. Once he's gone, we'll be fine.
I did think the same.
And then it was like, boom, right? And then they were done, and they were gone. So maybe it was the Raiders falling off. And maybe it was just Mahomes showing a glimpse of Mahomes for one game. I'm going to hold off until this week because they're playing the Cowboys. Besides that one terrible game against the Broncos, the Cowboys have been great. Even in their loss against the Bucs, they've been great. And so if Mahomes can do what he just did against that Dallas defense, and if they can actually go, because Cowboys are good on both sides of the football. So if Mahomes can still go in there, play like he just did, and win the game, then at least even get to close to winning the game, then I'll admit that Mahomes is back. I'm just going to be on pause. I'm not saying no, but I'm going to be on pause until that happens. I also think that touchdown pass that he threw to Williams in the end zone, the running back that he threw to, that should have been picked off.
I will agree on that one.
That was a bad pass. And I think...
I don't know if it was necessarily a bad pass as it was a bad. I think the placement of the ball wasn't bad. It was just a weird decision. I know in most offenses, if you have someone one-on-one, you're going to try and get them the ball, but it's their running back against. I know Jonathan Abrams not the best safety in the world, and he's more of just like a hard hitter than he is a coverage safety. But I will admit, though, it was a little bit lucky of a pass. I think it should have been picked off, but the Jonathan Abrams kind of just backed away from the ball instead of going for it. That's what I saw.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a little bit lucky, I'll admit, on that one.
So I disagree a little bit with you because I think the ball placement was the horrible decision, because the way the Williams was running, I think if he would have just put that ball over the top towards the back of the end zone, that would have been a much less likely ball to get picked off. And like you said, if he would have just stepped into that ball, he would have picked that ball off, but he didn't. So I think the ball placement was really bad. And I'm not trying to pick on one play to say he played bad. I think he played phenomenal throughout the game. But it is plays like that was going in the opposite direction for Kansas City that was costing Kansas City games. So as much as he's showing, glimpse of greatness, you can't continue to do. I mean, you will continue to do plays like this, but you can't put the ball in harm's way that much, because if that was a better safety or if that was a better defensive player, that ball probably would have been picked off. Now, I understand it was, they already had, I think, more than a 10-point lead at that time. It probably wouldn't have made the biggest difference to the ball game. But, that is something to keep in mind. You can't do that against good defenses. You can't do that when the other side's offense is playing good. Like, for instance, you do that next week and the ball gets picked off. You got Dak Prescott coming back out on the field to go up against your defense. As great as your defense is doing currently, Dak Prescott's, in my opinion, way better than Derek Carr. So I wouldn't risk that. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till next week to see, decide if he is back or not. But I do think besides one or two tough games, I mean, they have the Steelers coming up. They got the Broncos coming up twice. They're gonna play the Raiders again. So I think, they're for sure gonna win out their division, and they're for sure gonna make the playoffs. That is saying something, considering, like you said, they were last place in their division 3 weeks ago. So yeah. So unless you have more to add, I have the number one topic of the week for us in Dead Center. And that's our last topic of AFC. And I'm going to let you take the lead on this one because, I think it's too much for me. We're going to talk about the climb and downfall of Mike White.
The legend of Mike White.
The great Mike White. I don't even know why we're breaking this up.
Is this just Jeremy Lin 2.0? I mean, I know there's not much to say, but he went from it was one of the more inspiring stories of the season. They have the number 2 overall pick and get Zach Wilson, who with the quarterback I was the least high on in the first round of the draft, and he wasn't playing well. Then this no-named former 5th round pick from Western Kentucky, Mike White, steps in and beats the number 1 team in the AFC with 4 touchdown passes. Then the next week he gets hurt. So, it's okay, injuries happen. And then he gets another shot and just no touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And seems like it's just about over for that storyline.
Yeah, it reminded me a tad bit of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know if you remember when he played for the Buccaneers. He was a backup quarterback for the Buccaneers, and Jameis Winston, I want to say it was 3 years ago. Maybe it was 2018 or 2019. Jameis Winston was actually suspended for 3 games. I don't know if you remember that. And
yeah, the first,
you know what I'm talking about?
Because he has either the record or up there with the record for most touchdown passes in the first 3 weeks with 14 or something like that.
I think it's 11. And I think it's for the franchise, and I think it's 11 because his first 2 games, his first game and his second game, both of those games he threw for over 400 yards each, and he threw 4 touchdowns per game, no interceptions, and man, week 3 came around. He was coming there dressed up, shades on. He had his chain.
He was wearing the Deshaun Jackson.
Unstoppable. Yeah. And then he plays okay week 3. I believe they won week 3. And then week 4 and week 5, downhill. By week 6, Jameis Winston was back. Jameis Winston was back week 3, but by week 6, they're never mind. You had your 2 geek games, and that was it. We're going to start James now. And that's what Mike White reminds me of. And I can't believe that I saw one Mike White game, and then the following week, 2 weeks later when Mike White was back, I picked him to beat the Bills. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I've seen this guy play one game. It just happens to be probably his best game of his career. So, yeah, little upset about that. So that was a very short, epic chapter. Mike White. Let's hope he gets another shot at the NFL at one
Like
point.
I said, it was kind of similar to a Jeremy Lin thing. Jeremy Lin was literally a no-name undrafted free agent out of Harvard, comes to the NBA, and then dropped I think he averaged 30 points a game through 6 games or something insane like that. And then he fell off a cliff and then was a career backup point guard for the most random of bad teams. So maybe Mike White will just be a career backup, which is kind of sad, but you have the jersey to remember his legacy.
Maybe he'll be like Nick Foles. Maybe there's going to be a random, season where the Jets are finally doing so great and they're going to end up making the playoffs. But then, what's his face is just going to go.
It's not going to be Zach Wilson. It's not going to be Zach Wilson. I hate to hate on rookies. I don't think Zach Wilson's the answer.
I don't either. I agree with you fully.
I know this is kind of off topic, so I'm not going to rant about it too much. I was reading this report on Twitter. I don't remember who the source was. Apparently, if the Jets didn't pick Zach Wilson, he probably would have slipped to mid first round. No other team was nearly as high on him as the Jets were. Which I didn't know. I knew he was I knew the Jets were super high on him, and I just kind of went with that. And I'm okay, so the Jets are picking him. It doesn't really matter. But apparently, no other teams were really high on him whatsoever. Which I wasn't very high on him either. But I also don't like hating on rookies before they ever play a snap. He's played a few weeks and then just turns the ball over an insane amount and then got hurt. Which I know injuries, you can't blame him. But he's just not played super well. He can prove me wrong, but as of now, I don't think Zach Wilson's the answer.
Fair enough. So we're going to move on to the NFC, and we're going to talk about a couple of unfortunate upsets. And we're going to go with the Rams 49ers. And obviously 49ers came in and beat the crap out of the Rams. So what are your thoughts on that?
I was very shocked. I'm not even going to lie. I was completely shocked. I think we all know that I am a lot higher on the Rams than probably anyone else. I'm kind of hopping on their bandwagon now. I know, the Bears season's kind of over, so let's hop on the Rams bandwagon. And then they blew it. I think it was a big loss to lose Robert Woods. I know they got Odell Beckham. I think they're kind of. I would probably honestly at this point in their career say Robert Woods is a little bit better. I think it was honestly. I know it was only one drive, but the first drive of the game, which we talked about a little bit earlier,
drive
was 11 and a half, almost 12-minute drive. Took up the entire first quarter. I know that may not seem like a big deal because it's so early on in the game, but if you have a drive like that, your defense is going to get worn down, and that can carry effects for the entire game. And I think that's what kind of happened. I know I kind of say this every week, and I was always crapping on the 49ers. I do think they're better than I think. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're a average to good team, and I do think that they deserve to win the game, and that's exactly what happened. I think that they have a very much of a ground and pound offense, kind of like the Titans, where they run the ball a lot and wear down the defense. And that causes the defense to play worse at the later stages of the game. And I think that's works really well for them. And I do think they were the better team of the game. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I love how every single week I try to pick the 49ers and I try to tell you that they're so good. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I give up. I tried. And they're starting to just suck. And then out of nowhere, boom, here we go. Yeah, the Rams' number one thing was they had too many third down conversion drops. That was like one of the biggest things that I took away from it. And then other than that, one of those drops included an interception off the hands of the receiver. And then, like you mentioned, 49ers just controlled the game from the get-go. 11-minute drive in the beginning. That was crazy to me. That was the longest in the last 3 years, they said. At least that's what the stats showed. And then defensively and offensively, they just had their way with the entire game, and they made the Rams defense look like they had absolutely zero idea what the heck they were doing. So, yeah, I think and the Rams are on like a weird streak right now, and I'm not sure exactly what to expect moving forward from them. But right now, they're not looking so hot.
Matthew Stafford seems to have dropped off quite a bit by watching the games, like including last week against Tennessee.
Yeah.
He seems to be like a lot more careless with the ball. I know against Tennessee, he was trying to avoid a safety, but he did like this 360, just throw it up down the field kind of thing, and it got picked off at like,
right.
Maybe I don't know if it was their first drive, but it was really early on in the game and set up the Titans to immediately make it like 14-0 instead of just punting it. So,
yeah, I don't know, and that's this week was full of upsets. Rams again. I don't know what's going to happen. 49ers, they're too far behind. I feel like to even catch up and try to make it, but who knows, right? There's still about 7 games left, so maybe they'll catch up. Maybe they'll go 8-9 and actually make the wild card round. But moving on to another upset of the week, Buccaneers was a 10-point favorite going into Washington last week, and they lost by 10. Do you think Brady's turnovers are causing them to lose games?
I obviously think turnovers are bad. I think this is another one. This season is the weirdest season in NFL history.
Yeah.
Like we're in week 11 now. We know nothing. We know absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Anyone. The phrase "any given Sunday" has never meant more than this season, because literally we could predict anything. It doesn't matter. It's everything is just so bizarre.
Yeah.
There's even though Washington just beat them, if you were like, hey, who's gonna win, Washington or Tampa Bay? I would still pick Tampa Bay a million times out of a million times.
Yeah, like right now they can play tomorrow, and I'll probably pick the Bucs.
It's just, I think it's another. Like, I know I've been saying fluke this entire season, and that's like, there's usually not that many, but there's no other way to put it other than it's another fluke game. I think, who knows, maybe Washington is underrated and is the best team in football. I mean, we have the Jets out here beating the Titans. We know nothing. But I think that Tampa Bay is a good team, and I'm going to say that it was a fluke game, and we just need to move past it. I think Tom Brady maybe needs to turn over the ball a little bit less, and it would help. But I also don't think that that's a big part of them losing. I think that they're fine. They lost a fluke game. It happens to everyone. That's what I'm going to leave it at.
So, I'll say this and I'll say it again. Washington sucks. I truly believe that. And for you to say maybe they're good, they won 3 games so far.
They were my playoff pick for the NFC East.
Yeah, they were. So. I don't know how, but they were. They won 3 games so
Mr.
far.
Giants.
And their 1 win, I'm getting to that. Their 1 win came off of a field goal that they had to kick twice when they missed the first field goal because the Giants' defensive player was offsides. That's the only reason they won that game. So I don't think Washington's very good, but I do have to give them credit where credit is due. And that's that fourth quarter. It has nothing to do with the picks. Do I think Brady's picks are costing them games? Sure they are, because off the picks, they scored, and they're getting a lead, and they're falling behind, and they never caught up. Right? Bucs never caught up. So sure they are. Saints, I blame Brady fully on that game, because I've already given you the reasons of the 3 turnovers that was completely on him, in my opinion. Washington, at least one of them, wasn't really on him. That the ball was bounced up, it hit the receiver in the chest. Second one, I don't know where the heck he was throwing that ball. I want to say Mike Evans, but Mike Evans was, about 7 feet shorter than where that ball was placed, and he was about 4 yards to the left than where the ball was thrown. So I don't know who he was throwing that ball to. I think that was just a horrible throw and a horrible interception. That being said, The second half, that offense played really well. Came back, put up 2 touchdowns. Fourth quarter, going into the game, they're trying to make it a 3-point game. Extra point was missed. It was a 4-point game, but you're still thinking, man, there's 10 minutes and there's almost 11 minutes left on the clock. They got to stop. They get the ball back. Brady can go back and score, and they're going to be right back in it. And then, Washington will be what we thought, or at least what I thought Washington was, which is they suck. But then here we are, 10 minutes and 26 seconds later. There's 33 seconds left on the clock, and Washington scored another touchdown. I thought that was one of the best drives I've seen. And I do have to give Taylor Heineke, and the rest of that offense a lot of credit because they just kept the Bucs defense on the field. They knew not to turn the ball around. They knew not to give the ball back to Tom Brady, and they kept him on the sideline. And he didn't touch the ball until there was 30 seconds left on the clock, and there's literally nothing at that point to do. You're down 10 points. So credit given where credit's due. I do think they need to get the turnovers, in hand. But that being said, Gronkowski just practiced as one of Brady's safety blankets. AB is they're hoping he'll be back in a week or so. And
I think he's out of the walking boot now, which is a good sign.
Yeah, I don't think he's practiced this week, but he's supposed to starting next week. And it also looks like hopefully Scotty Miller will be back. And then, their defense is all banged up, and I think a couple of them are supposed to be back soon too. So, and Carlton Davis was also at practice. So I do think the Bucs are going to pick it up. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I've also realized one thing over the years, seeing Tom Brady play, is that they're going to lose the weirdest games throughout the regular season. As long as they do enough to make it to the playoffs, it's reset at that point. At that point, be scared. And
don't bet against Brady.
And not in the playoffs. And I think the biggest argument was, well, Brady doesn't do very well when they're on the road in the playoffs. But then, they went on the road and beat Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. And then, so there was that was like his first AFC Championship road win. But then he came back, and next thing you know, this last year they went on 3 straight road games and beat all 3 teams to make it to the Super Bowl, where they were on a losing streak in the middle of the season. So
was in Lambeau.
Yeah, one was in Lambeau. One was against the Saints, who they lost twice to in the regular season.
Also a very hard place to play.
It is. And look, last year they lost to the Bears. I know you love the Bears, but I don't think the Bears were very good last year. They lost to the Bears last year.
You just can't beat Nick Foles. You just physically can't do it.
And don't forget, they actually lost to the Giants. The Giants was a 2-point conversion away from tying up the game. So they do have some weird games occasionally, especially in the middle of the season. So that is something to keep in mind. I think they're going to bounce back. But we'll stick to the division because guess who's back? Cam Newton's back with the Panthers. I didn't think he was going to play last week, but he did. And they beat the brakes off the Cardinals. So what do you think on that? Do you think he's going to continue to play this way?
So I was looking at this stat on Twitter. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of all the quarterbacks this year. I think it was just including this year, who have thrown a certain amount of passes, like their ratings for like quarterback rating. But it's a fancy stats. And you know who was like dead last or close to dead last in all of them? Was Sam Darnold. So basically, Sam Darnold was playing as bad as you could possibly play as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, he's horrible.
He started off okay, and I know I personally was like, I think it was the Jets ruining him, and he's going to turn it around. And then I was very wrong. He hit a wall. He's seeing ghosts again, whatever you want to say. And then the hero of the Panthers from since I watched football was Cam Newton, MVP winner. So I know you saw me get a little surprise earlier. This is a little small of a jersey, but the Panthers Cam Newton jersey from my childhood. I'm a huge Cam Newton fan. One of my favorite non-Bears of all time. I think that
real quick, when you say childhood, weren't you already like 6'3" when you were like 10 years old?
No, I was tiny. I wasn't over 6 foot till like my sophomore year of high school.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Just make
this was I think it was my sophomore year of high school when I got this jersey because I went to the.
So you got it, and then you hit your growth spurt.
Yeah, and so I could wear it for 1 year, and then I outgrew it. But
well, that was Cam Newton's career. He had one good year, so
he was okay up until, and then he won MVP, and then kind of slowly dropped off. Okay, quickly dropped off. Besides the point, I'm a big Cam Newton fan, and I know he's probably not the most talented quarterback at this point in his career. But I will say is he is just like a very energetic, and he's a very good leader of a team. Even though he's like been on the Panthers for all of like 4 days, I counted going into last game. He was like on the sideline, hyping up the team, kind of coaching him a little bit. And, I know he was set up to score touchdowns because he got the ball at like the 1 yard line. Scored 2 touchdowns against, one of the better defenses and better teams in football. I think it was another one of those fluke games. It was a little bit less of a fluke. I think the Panthers just played a really good game. And I think the Panthers are a quarterback away from being a good team. I think with Sam Darnold, they're like an average to bad team. If they had even a decent quarterback, I think they would be more of a good team. If they would have, maybe drafted Justin Fields instead of J.C. Horn, maybe they'd be more of a playoff team right now. Who knows? But I think that the Panthers could turn it around. I could see them, given that the bottom part of the NFC, like fighting for a playoff position, it's very weak. I think I could see the Panthers turning it around and getting like back into the playoff fight.
Yeah, I think the Panthers right now, they're last in their division, or they're third in their division. They're 2 games behind Bucks, so they could turn it around. They play the Dolphins, the Falcons, they play the Bills, they play Bucks twice, and they play the Saints. I think at least one of those Bucks games, if they try hard enough, they could win. My number one concern is, can Christian McCaffrey stay healthy? And that's a big if, and I think that has a lot to do with that team. I don't think they're just a quarterback away. I think they're also a good running back away for a balanced game. And when he goes out, they don't have a good backup running back, right? At least nowhere near that caliber. So that's my number one thing. And number 2 is Cam Newton can always come out looking real hot, real good when he's playing, but can he maintain that throughout and, till the end of the season? Can he even do that throughout the entire game is my question. And can he continue to play, if he does maintain it, can he continue to play that good in the playoffs? And I've only seen that from him once, and that's that year when he went to that Super Bowl. And even that Super Bowl, he has such a great defense. The supporting cast was amazing, right? But the only game where they fall behind, he couldn't come back. I've never been the biggest Cam Newton fan. I'm still not. I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't think he's as great as everybody thought he was. And I think they can win a couple more games. I think it's going to be a few weeks before we know for sure if he's good enough, because like I said, he's about to play Washington, Dolphins, and Falcons. That's their next 3 matchup. So I think it'll be a few weeks.
I want to say, though, I think that honestly, the Panthers have a very underrated supporting cast.
I don't think they're bad.
Only if McCaffrey, like you said, if McCaffrey is healthy. They have probably the second best running back in football. Their offensive line isn't the best, but it's definitely not bad. It's serviceable enough for a good team. Then the receivers, they got DJ Moore, who I'm a big fan of and I think is insanely underrated. Robbie Anderson is an absolute burner, who I think is great on the outside. Then with their defense, you remember going into the beginning of the season, I know they weren't playing the best competition, but we were talking about how their defense is one of the best in the league. And I still think that's true to this day. I think they have one of the better defenses in the league. That's why I'm saying I feel like if they have a quarterback, they can be a good team. Their defense, great. And they just I still feel like Sam Darnold has potential. Not on this team, maybe. Or maybe he just needs to ride the bench for a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that say they're Super Bowl contender or anything like that. I think they're a playoff contender with Cam Newton.
I think they could be playoff contender, but we'll see. Well, we're going to move on to another person who another quarterback who just decided to come back and accept, he never got a chance to make it to the end zone and yell out to the audience saying, "I'm back." And that is Mr. Russell Wilson, who for the first time in his career was shut down against the Green Bay Packers. What do you think?
As
Sam Darnold to the Texans. What? No.
I mean,
No.
I mean,
I want. Okay, that's cool. That's our pay. So I'm gonna guess that's Mr. Jose. That's that asked that question.
I could see it. I mean, I could see it.
That was a typo. There you go. There's a real.
But I'm a big Packers hater.
Real quick, Texans have had their bad share of quarterbacks. We don't need any more.
Listen, turn his career around with their great coach.
No.
I think it'd be, I could honestly, like, not even on a joking note, I could see them doing a move for Sam Darnold. Their kind of entire team is in shambles.
I'd rather take Tua.
Maybe a 3-team trade. They send Deshaun to the Panthers, Sam Darnold to the. I don't know how this would work, but hear me out. They can still get Tua. You'd rather have Tua than Sam Darnold?
Yes.
I feel like you're a Tua hater, and I love Tua, so I'm just happy to hear it.
Okay, but I don't hate Tua. Look,
Look,
real quick, I just want to point something out. I don't hate any of these people. I just call it like the way I see it. Tua can't stay healthy. Sam Darnold can literally, at this point, there's a higher chance of him completing a throw to his teammate with a blindfold on than the way he's playing right now. I don't hate them. They just suck. And yes, I'd rather take an injury-prone Tua over Sam Darnold, who literally does nothing but turn the ball over. We saw that with the freaking, where did he play? The Jets right before this, right? Where he sucked, and we thought, maybe that's the Jets. Everybody sucks with the Jets. And he went to the Panthers, and like 3 weeks straight, we're like, oh my God, Sam Darnold was great. And then Christian McCaffrey's out, and you're like, oh my God, Sam Darnold is back. He sucks. That's what he is. He sucks. I'm sorry. It's time for him to retire, okay? Maybe he can be a coach or an assistant or a
He's like 24.
Something.
What do you mean retire?
Has he improved? He's been in the league for, 3 years now?
Yeah. Maybe 4 now? This is his 4th year, I think?
Yeah, that's my point. He might be 24, but how much better is he currently playing than he was playing with the Jets?
Maybe, hear me out. Maybe you can think of him as a rookie quarterback, given the fact that he was on the Jets with Adam Gase completely destroying the beginning of his career. I don't know if you can comprehend how bad of a coach Adam Gase was. I remember him when he was the offensive coordinator of the Bears, and he was bad. He was very, very bad.
I think these comments just came in. I don't know who the next QB for the Texans is, but I know they aren't playing in the NFL right now. Agreed. More than likely,
in the draft. This hopefully not in this upcoming draft either, because this upcoming draft is very weak in the quarterback position, in my opinion.
I think the Texans have gotten too much airtime. I think
we could go back to the Seahawks and the Packers.
We're not just talking about the Texans here. We're talking about Sam Darnold here. And as far as me thinking, and look, at this point, I think there's maybe 2 coaches in the NFL that can make Sam Darnold better.
Bill Belichick.
And that's not even because Bill Belichick is an offensive guy. It's because Bill Belichick's just going to be like, Sam, I just need you to hand the ball off every time. And the only time we're going to throw is trick plays, and my defense will do the rest. Sean Payton, for some reason, make any quarterback look good, maybe for like 3 or 4 weeks, and there's probably going to drop off. We haven't seen him past that. But yeah, I think that's it. Sam Darnold sucks. I'm sorry. I'm not going to. Sam Darnold has had too much airtime. Okay.
Yeah, we can't talk about Sam Darnold for the rest of the year. We're going to move on. Cam Newton's going to resurrect the Panthers. We're going to leave it at that. Going back to it, it's the Packers and the Seahawks thing. Yep. I'm a Packers hater. I despise them.
Did Wilson come back too soon?
I honestly want to say yes. I don't know if that's a stupid answer, but I will say I know I say this every single time. I despise the Packers, but I will admit they're a good team. I don't think they're as good as they've been in the past few years, but they're still a good team. At the same time, their defense, I think, is average to good. I think it's like probably
The Packers?
I don't think the Packers defense is that great. They still don't have Jair Alexander. Zadarius Smith is still out. I think they're both on IR currently.
Can I make one point?
Yes.
The last 3 weeks between Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Mahomes, there was one touchdown thrown against that defense. Just want to throw that out there. One touchdown thrown against that defense between all three of these quarterbacks.
They were also playing the Chiefs whenever the Chiefs were in that funk where you even admitted Pat Mahomes was gone. So, and then Russell Wilson, who I'm
still a cool stat.
I mean, I will agree, cool stat. And I'm also currently in the process of saying I think Russell Wilson came back too early. The Kyler Murray thing, I will admit, Kyler Murray, and on that game.
But he should have thrown two because, like I said, AJ Green
we both agreed in the Cardinals game. It was more so the Cardinals playing bad than the Packers playing good.
Fair enough.
So I think I just kind of knocked all of that out. But I think Russell Wilson, I don't want to say he came back too soon because I think he's still a better option injured than Geno Smith is. But he did not play like normal Russell Wilson. Like I think they turned the ball over like in the red zone like multiple times. Like it was just not
on just deep throws too.
It was like they played bad. Like I don't think the Seahawks are a very good team. I think they're kind of on par with the Bears, and I think that says a lot. Don't think they're very good. I think they're better. Like they're too good of a team to get shut out by the Packers or any teams. You know how hard it is to get shutouts in the league as is. And for the Seahawks, who are an offensive-minded team, to get shut out by a decently good defense is pretty pathetic. I think that kind of clearly states that Russell Wilson should have at least like waited a little bit longer to get fully healthy, because he wasn't supposed to be back for, I want to say like another 2 weeks, like based on the averages whenever he first got hurt, and he. Apparently he was rehabbing for 19 hours a day every day to get back.
I don't think that's true.
I saw that on Twitter.
I don't think that's true.
Saw it on Twitter.
Well, I saw it too. I just don't believe it.
I would believe it just because Russell. There's no that injury. His finger was gone and he's already back. It is kind of hard to believe. Maybe I'm being a little gullible here. Besides the point. Point being, he came back too soon, and they got embarrassed against the Packers. Which even the Bears' offense did way better than that. So I'm just going to leave that there.
I think Wilson did come back too soon. But I do want to make a point real quick. Pete Carroll's actually a very defensive-minded coach. So I don't know where you got the idea that. Well,
no, I'm saying that the Seahawks are an offensive team because they have. I think that they had like the.
DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, because they had like the 32nd ranked defense in the league. Like their defense has been atrocious this year.
Yeah.
And then before Russell Wilson's injury, their offense was good. DK Metcalf, Lockett, Gerald Everett. Their offensive line's still atrocious. Chris Carson's been hurt too, but still, I consider them an offensive team just based on how bad their defense has been this year.
That's fair. And yeah, I'm surprised that they got shut down, especially Russell Wilson. You said the Seahawks are too good to get shut down. I think Russell Wilson's too good of a quarterback to ever get shut down in a game. And I think it was crazy. There were 2 interceptions, I think, that happened in the end zone. Usually you see Wilson throw a deep ball, and it is gorgeous. And he does such a great job. In this game, I think both of the interceptions he threw, it wasn't even a 50-50 ball. It was the defender was just waiting in the end zone on that ball. They were just like, look at that. He's throwing it to me. Let me just catch it for him. So he said it wasn't his finger. He said his finger was fine. He said, he just had a bad game. And either way, I do think it was rushed back. One, if you're rehabbing 19 hours a day, you shouldn't be. You need to get some sleep because that's part of it. 2, you broke your finger. It's okay to be out. And as far as him out there, it's better than Geno Smith. Geno Smith never got shut down in these games. Wilson did. And also, what was the point of rushing to come back? It's not like you're facing elimination from the playoffs. Your team had 3 wins. And even if you would have won against the Packers last week, it'll put you at 4 wins. You're still going to be tied with 3 other teams at 4 wins. You're going to be behind 2 other teams to make the wild card round. You're going to have to play catch up, and that's assuming you keep winning. And it's not like you were really winning much before Wilson went out. So I don't understand the whole premise behind rushing to come back and trying to make it. I have no idea what the point behind that was. I think Wilson was eager to come back, and I just think Seahawks didn't invite him on it. And I think that's exactly what happened.
I think it was more of a Russell Wilson thing, just based on the fact, I mean, I don't know him as a person, like, personally, but based on my knowledge of Russell Wilson, is he's a competitor, and if he feels like he's healthy enough to play, he's going to play. I mean, this is the first few games he's missed his entire career. Like, he's never been injured.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the reasons he rushed back. Also, I feel like if the Seahawks were already giving up on the season, maybe they would have been like, okay, wait, we don't need you to rush back. But they are trying to save their season. I don't think they have their first round pick still from the Jamal Adams trade, if I'm not mistaken. So tanking doesn't really serve a purpose for them. So I think fighting for the playoffs. I don't necessarily agree with rushing back your franchise quarterback or anything, but I can kind of see why they would allow him to come back as early as he did, for the thought that he could turn their season back around.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say on that, but all we know is right now Seahawks are still sitting at 3 wins. Their chance of even making wild card round at this point is extremely low. There's a couple of other teams that are actually fighting for that spot that, are clearly playing better. I mean, right now the Rams look like they're fighting for a wild card spot because of the Cardinals. You got the Vikings who's starting to look
Vikings,
good.
I will say they turned. I still don't think they're a great team. They have definitely.
I know Saints took back-to-back losses, but I don't think they're that terrible. I think they lost to Falcons, who's a division rivals, and then they also lost to Titans last week, who I think.
And it wasn't even that. It wasn't even.
Yeah, it was a 2-point game. It was a 2-point. They missed 2 extra points. The Saints missed 2 extra points where they had to go for a 2-point conversion at the end, and they didn't get it. So So then the Saints are going to end up more than likely, between the Panthers, the Bucs, and the Saints. I feel like there's a good chance it's going to be one playoff spot, or there's going to be one playoff spot, and there's going to be at least one wild card spot. There's a good chance Vikings are going to make a wild card spot. Between the Rams and the Cardinals, I think one of them are going to get a wild card spot, and those are your 3 wild card spots right there for Seahawks at this point to catch up to that and at least make a wild card spot. Is it doable? Sure. Do I think that's going to happen? I highly doubt it. So, so we just have one last thing to talk about, unless you have something to add. We usually do our picks on Fridays, but since we're on here, I did want to talk about our pick for who we got tomorrow. And I think we're both going to pick the same team because we've been riding their bandwagon now for a couple of weeks. Patriots are traveling all the way to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. What do you got in this game?
Yeah, I do think we're probably going to pick the same teams here. It's hard not to pick the Patriots. I do think the Falcons are kind of in their own way, kind of having a bounce back.
Yeah,
they're not playing spectacular by any means, but they're definitely playing a lot better. Matt Ryan's played decently well. I'd love to see this Matt Ryan on a better team. I think he deserves it, and I feel like he could definitely perform a lot better with better supporting cast. With that being said, the Patriots are one of the hotter teams in football. On a hot streak. Mac Jones playing well, kind of opening the playbook up a little bit. And like you said, we've been on their bandwagon for a few weeks. I don't think it'll be super close. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I have a final score, New England winning 31-20.
So my score is very close. I got 31-17. And, the Falcons, to me, is very my love for the Falcons was very similar to my love for the 49ers. Even when they let you down repeatedly, I just kept picking them, thinking, you know what, you have a potential chance to make it. And they just kept letting you down. And my number one argument at the beginning of this season was the amount of new players that the Falcons had going into the season, and they all had to, build chemistry, build rapport. And a few weeks ago, the way they played, I thought, man, they're finally there. They just went in and they played New Orleans. Sean Payton has a great defense, and they went toe-to-toe. Falcons look unstoppable. And I thought, okay, maybe they finally got it going. Maybe they know exactly what they're doing. Maybe they're gonna get into it now. And then I picked them to upset the Cowboys. Boy, was I wrong. Probably my worst picks of the week, which we'll talk about on Friday. But yeah, so it's hard. Just like the 49ers, it's hard for me to continue to pick the Falcons. And like you said, I mean, the Patriots are doing so good right now. I have a ton of respect for Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan could go to a good team and could potentially have maybe 2 more, 3 more great year. And I think that will eventually. I kind of hope it happens, but I have a feeling Matt Ryan's going to want to just play out and finish his career in Atlanta. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I got the Patriots winning the game 31-17. And it's Thursday Night Football, so I'm sure a lot of people will be watching. And I'm sure that 28-3 Super Bowl is going to be brought up. So
a lot. Just the entire game.
Yeah. So unless do you have any other topics we missed that you want to add?
I just want to add one more thing. I'm not going to go on too much of a rant because I don't want to take up another 30 minutes. Okay, listen, we talked about earlier how the Steelers suck. And I know they beat the Bears, and I'm using air quotes for a reason here. If you try and tell me that wasn't the worst officiated game you've ever watched in your entire life, you would be lying so bad. I'm not a big fan of the people who, like, every single game they lose ever, they're like, oh, it's because, the refs, that one call. And I feel like I'm maybe being one of those people, but literally there were so many bad calls in that game. They took away one of our touchdowns because of a chop block, which is illegal if it's outside of the tight end box, which it wasn't in the first place. He also completely whiffed on the defender, so it wouldn't have been a foul anyways, and they still called it. The taunting thing, I've said this all year, the taunting rule is the most stupid rule ever. You know something a little fishy here? So I don't know if you know this, but the NFL starting this year started partnering with gambling websites. Is the same year they make up this rule for taunting, which in the rule book does not have a set definition of what it is. It's whatever the ref feels like is taunting can be taunting. I hate the taunting rule. That entire game was atrocious. I think everyone, especially Bears fans, and everyone not a fan of the Steelers, and including some Steelers fans, have all admitted that the Steelers only won because of the terrible officiating, and I'm going to stand by that. And Steelers fans, I will say they can have this one win, but we're going to win the long run because you have no future. You have noodle-armed Big Ben and no backup plan, and we have Justin Fields. And I'm going to leave it at that so it doesn't get too ranty, but that's all I got to say.
So I have a few things to add to that, and I'm not trying to say you're fully wrong here, but I do think the Bears messed up a couple of times. And so I'm going to start with the taunting penalty, and I hate the taunting penalty because it's just dumb, right? Yeah. And it's one thing to literally stand over a player and go, ha, look what I just did to your team, screw you. And it's another thing to stand midfield, look at the opposing team's bench, and walk away. I think they're two very different things, and I think that's why I think the taunting penalty is stupid. Real quick, as far as the NFL partnering up with betting websites, I don't think the Steelers actually covered the spread anyway. They weren't in a position to cover the spread anyway for the bettors on the Steelers to win just because of the taunting penalty. That's number one thing. Two, as stupid as a taunting penalty is, every single team should know how serious the NFL is taking these taunting penalties, and they can literally have the worst reasoning in the world, and they will throw a flag on it. You got to coach your players. Make the play, walk off the field.
See, but at the
Make
same
the
time,
play, walk off the field. I know, I hate it too.
But then I feel like they're trying to take all of the fun out of football. Sport. It's an entertainment. Sports aren't supposed to be a business. I mean, I get it's a business, but it's not supposed to be like, oh, you do your job and then you walk off. You're going to get excited. He got signed off the practice squad for that game. That was, and this is to maybe get a roster spot. makes the biggest play of the game, would have won us the game. And so he gets excited. And it wasn't even that big of a deal to get called for taunting because earlier in the game, TJ Watt got a sack and did his kick and then walks the exact same spot and blew a kiss to the Bears sideline. And that's not a taunting penalty. But whenever you look at them for 0.2 seconds, that's taunting.
So the taunting penalty is dumb.
If they want to keep the taunting penalty, make something in the rule book that says what it is, not whatever the ref says it is. If they do the same thing, it's not for this team, but it is for this team. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and I think it's stupid. And it wasn't just the taunting. There was, like I said, the ghost chop block that took away a touchdown. I think in the fourth quarter, he threw I wouldn't say a deep pass. Big Ben can't throw farther than 15 yards, so it's as deep as he could throw it. The receiver pushed off, and as he's pushing off, Jalen Johnson, our cornerback, was they kind of locked arms, and they call it defensive pass interference, which if anything, it was pass interference on both of them. Stupid as hell. I don't want to keep ranting because I can talk about this for half an hour. The refs were horrible, and I feel better because knowing every NFL fan, even Packers fans, have admitted to me that this was the worst officiated game they've ever seen. So
I think I do agree with the worst officiated game. I do want to make one last point, though. And here's where the Bears really, really messed up. What did the Bears not do last week or the week before against the Steelers that Washington did?
Use more of the clock. Take up more of the clock before the end of the game.
Take up more of the clock. I thought scoring so fast was so... You're only a field goal away. They only needed a field goal. The Steelers only need to get to the field goal range. They have a really good kicker. I understand that Big Ben is basically at the end of his career, but Big Ben at the end of the day, game's on the line, and you can somewhat trust that guy. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's been in the league forever. He knows how to lead a team and go, hey, let's go 60 yards down the line and put us in range to win the game. They score so fast. Why?
The only thing I'll add on that, I do agree that they should have taken up more clock. I know Khalil Mack wasn't playing, but we're still a defensive team, and I feel like whenever you look at the roster, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. I think it was more of a situation where they trusted the defense more than the offense, and if you have a chance to get a touchdown, get the touchdown. Which, if I'm the coach, I honestly probably make the same decision. It obviously didn't work out well, but at the same time, I don't count too much against it for that.
Yeah, but before the touchdown, where were they? At the 10-yard line or something?
I was talking about did they drive down, or was it a deep touchdown? Is that what you're asking?
No, it wasn't a deep touchdown. It was a 20-yard touchdown or 10-yard touchdown or something, right? So I think that's the thing. And I think as a coach, as much as you want to say, hey, defense can make a stop, we're not worried about that at all. They just got to go score. I do think that when you went down the field about 70 yards down at that point so fast, don't rush back up to the line and don't throw a touchdown pass right away. You still have your, I think they had 2 timeouts at that time left, and you have well over a minute. And for sure at that point you're going to go for it on 4th and goal, even if you have to. At that point, you're either going to score and win the game or you're not. So just don't rush it. I think that was the only mistake that they made, and they just did it so quick. And the second they did it, the second they scored, I was just like, what are you doing?
It's still Matt Nagy, a head coach. I mean,
that's like, I don't know if you ever, and I'm not saying it's this bad, but there's this picture, there's this meme that I saw a long time ago, and I was like, it's the most accurate thing I've ever seen. It was a guy in a Packers jersey, and behind, it was in a bar in Dallas, so behind it was nothing but Cowboys, and he had a picture taken, and the caption said, Cowboys just took the lead by 2 points with 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the clock. And they're celebrating. LOL.
Yeah.
And that's what it reminded me of. Because do I trust Aaron Rodgers a hell of a lot more to make it to the field goal range than Big Ben? Yes, absolutely. But I do think that it was a little premature to just go score just like that. But
I still think the Bears should have won that game, and I'm blaming the refs. I'm taking my blame the refs week of the season, and that is it.
I will say this. They may have lost that game, technically on paper. Justin Fields, hold on to that guy. Get rid of Nagy, get another coach in, hold on to Justin Fields.
I said this after the 49ers game that Justin Fields, that was his like,
You did. I agree. You sure
I don't know what the word I'm looking for. His like welcome to the NFL moment, type thing. And
that was his breakout game. Week. That was his
breakout game. That's what I'm looking for. And I hated that our bye week was last week because he played so well back to back, and I'm like, I need to see more. We have not had a quarterback ever. I need a quarterback, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, and hopefully they come up with a good coach next year.
I want either Byron Leftwich, offensive coordinator from the Bucs, or Brian DeBall from the offensive coordinator from the Bills. Those are my two.
I got two better picks for you, actually.
We steal Bill Belichick.
Bill O'Brien or Adam Gase.
Stop. Adam Gase was our offensive coordinator. I already know his whole dealio.
Well, listen. If you're done ranting about the Bears, I think we can. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Don't forget to visit our website, coolsportsguy.com, our Facebook page, Cool Sports Guy, and we also have a YouTube channel, Cool Sports Guy. Go check us out. This video will be posted on our website and our YouTube page, and we will see you back here again on Friday with the rest of our week's pick. We already picked Thursdays, and we'll be talking about how horrible my picks were last week, and I'm gonna have a bounce back pick this coming Friday. So until then, Jarrett, thank you so much for joining, and
good one.
We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.